heading all the way down to El Cajon, which is almost Mexico. But traffic is going to take about 3 hours going to the Nick Isenhouer and Chris Isenhouer shop. Drop them off a new machine. So they've been scraping by with only one for a while. They're going to show us some things. All right, well, we woke up too early, did a long drive down to El Cajon, California, and we are at an exciting shop. We are down at Isenhouer Brothers Racing. We're gonna meet up with Nick and Chris. They need a second grinder because one ain't cutting it for them anymore. And we also get to check out some of the cool stuff they build and talk to them a bit about how they use the machines. So they're waiting for us inside, so we're gonna bring them their new machine. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior?
Hello. We donate at church. We don't have anything to give you. No, we don't want to buy anything.
All right, well, we'll give it to you then. We brought you something. Sure. Well, this is Nick and Chris.
Hi.
Isenhouer Brothers Racing. So, yeah, tell us about what you guys do here at this cool metal building down in El Cajon.
We take people's running vehicles and we completely ruin them. We make them worth half the amount that they bought them for, but you can drive them in the dirt. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes. This started out as just us working on our own personal race cars and doing that stuff, and then doing customer stuff on the side. And then we realized that there's a lot of money in customer stuff, so that's kind of what we do full time now. So about 2 years ago, I quit my job and came here full time. And then Chris, about probably 5 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago, he quit his job, and we're here full time, just building cars, prepping cars, doing race stuff.
How scary was that jump?
Terrifying. Yeah. Terrifying.
Oh yeah, we know.
Yeah, I think I talked about it for about a year or so, to quit my job and come here full time, and always back and forth, and then I got to the point where it was like, we either needed to hire somebody or I needed to come here full time. Oh, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, quit my job and come here full time, and haven't looked back yet.
We tried staggering our full-time jumps as well, but ended up kind of crushed together like in time. Mm-hmm. We even tried hiring people for a while and managing it while we weren't even there. We hired full-time employees that were working in the shop before us.
While we were at our day jobs.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah. That never works.
No. But yeah, you guys are living the dream though. I mean, stuff that's awesome. What's the split of like the stuff working on your stuff versus like customer stuff?
So that's a hard balance that we're still trying to figure out. It kind of seems that our personal stuff has been lacking lately, which we kind of need to maybe make a little bit of a shift, because that is what got us into all this, and what brings us in the customers and all that stuff is making sure our race cars are on the track and we go racing. We haven't missed any races or anything, but we're definitely like waiting to the last minute to start prepping our own cars, so we probably need to make a little bit of adjustment. But most of the time it's, you know, during the day we're working on customer stuff, and then the evenings we're working on personal stuff.
It's like 7 to call it 4:30 or so we work on customer stuff, and then from 4:30, 5 o'clock till midnight so we work on our own stuff.
Yeah. What series are you racing?
So last year we kind of just jumped around and raced a couple here and there and did a lot of fun stuff. It was kind of a shaky year, obviously, with us taking this on more full time. We were trying to focus on making sure we could pay our mortgages. Yeah. But next year the plan is to try and race the whole Legacy series and try and chase a championship there.
Yeah, so we'll do King of the Hammers and the Mint and all of the Legacy as well. So we'll do 7 races.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
Tough to prep for.
Yeah. Along with customer race cars and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. 2 trucks or 1 truck?
One truck.
One truck next year.
Yeah, the old F100's in retirement phase now. It's on the show circuit. It stays in the garage, nice and clean, and then it gets taken out for shows. That's it.
Shows, events. So
we're tired of crashing that one. We don't want to put another cage in that car, so it's done.
How's the field been the last few years?
In spec truck?
Yeah.
Hectic. Yeah. Trucks are getting faster.
It's very, very competitive. I think it's probably the #1 competitive class.
A lot more entries, right?
Yeah. At any given race, you're upwards of 20 plus cars that enter.
It's pretty impressive that you guys are still doing so well in such a competitive class. We were talking on the way down here about it's a unique thing where like the drivers, the talent, are also building their own stuff and also still competitive. Like, it's not just the people with the
big checkbooks and all that stuff.
Like a whole separate team working on it.
Exactly.
Garage cars or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive what you guys are doing.
Thanks. Yeah.
It reminds me back, like I knew a guy that in the 70s, he built a car and went to like the Fontana track or whatever and qualified and raced in like a NASCAR race.
Oh yeah.
And like that ain't gonna happen anymore.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing we talk about too, is like when we were kids, there was always the dream of racing trophy truck, like actual trophy truck.
Yeah.
And then once you get into the sport, you realize that's not a thing. Like,
It's not obtainable.
We'll never go race a trophy truck. It's just
Unless
not.
it's heating in air.
Yeah, unless we start an HVAC or a
if your dad's
construction
using
company.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are spending upwards of $4 to $5 million a year.
Yeah.
Like the top teams, like they're spending the money for sure.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you I'll probably never see $1 million in my lifetime. So these guys are crazy.
Yeah. You said you built your first truck in 2007?
Yep.
How old were you?
14. Well, no,
14.
I wasn't 14 in 2007, but I bought that truck when I was 14, and we raced it in 2007. I was like 18 years old back then. Yeah, I think it was 18. Yeah, raced in 2007, and then we literally haven't missed a planned race since then.
What was that first truck?
So it was a 1969 Ford F100. There's pictures of it back here on the wall.
It's actually the same truck, that the F100.
Okay.
It's the same truck.
Yeah.
It's just been cut apart and revised and cut apart and rebuilt. And all
The back's been cut off, and then the front was cut off, then the whole cage and everything was stripped off of it, and built the whole thing new, and then we center mounted the front of it, and then we crashed it and put a whole new cage back on it.
Yeah.
It's been...
Yeah, so I think the only thing left of the original truck is 52 inches of the frame rail underneath the cab. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's still the same truck.
Yeah. As much as you can consider a truck is what it is,
Right.
so much of a race car changes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's had, what, 4 cabs on it?
Something like that.
3 or 4 cabs have been put on it, so it's been through its paces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still a good truck though.
So, can we see what you're racing now?
Sure, yeah, here. No matter how much space you have, you always run out of it. No matter what.
Unless you do HVAC.
Unless you do HVAC. This is an Everson Performance, Everson Fab, Everson chassis that we got as a rolling chassis from John and Andy. We got it in 2019, I think, 2018. We completed it. It sat for a while, obviously, just funds and tinkering on it and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sat for about a year as we just made, use of what we had. And then we made a big push before the 2020 Mint 400 and got it finished up. Raced the 2020 Mint 400, finished like 10th or something like that. And then have just been racing it ever since then. What's rather unique about this spec truck or 6100 truck is the fact that it does have a steel cab on it. The whole chassis was designed to have a steel cab put on the truck.
All right.
So it's a little bit narrower, the cab's a little bit smaller, but for us being 1450 guys forever and like steel cab working door guys, we just felt like that we had to stay there. Like there was no changing that. We had to be true to our roots and keep it.
You don't do HVAC. You don't have a full.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can't afford carbon fiber.
I think it looks cooler though too.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah.
glass is just like
Yeah, and it takes it back to like the early 90s, 80s, the race, like when trucks were trucks. Like trophy trucks were actual trucks, you know?
Pushing the Class 8 days.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what drove us to the sport when we were little kids, is looking at all those old F-150s and old Chevy Thunder trucks and the Nissans and all that stuff. And like,
Riders.
yeah, it's like you'd see that truck like in a parking lot. You could think like, oh, that's an actual truck. I could go to the dealership, buy that and build that. And that's something we try to kind of dive into with this thing is like kind of keep this like somewhat of an obtainable thing. Because like we still get like on the internet every now and then, we'll get like some guy like, hey man, I've got an F-150 just like you. I'm like, no, you don't. Look, it looks like it, but it's not.
So that's what makes it relatable, I think, and looks so cool. Is, like you said, it looks like a truck.
Yeah.
It's a truck.
Yeah, so we try to keep that going, and it's just cool. We're 1450 kids till the day we die.
So you were just into the sport. That's how you kind of got into it, dreaming of racing and stuff as a kid.
Yeah, so like our dad raced a little bit in the 80s. He raced a Class 10 car with a buddy. And then like we just grew up hearing the stories, like, oh, this race and that, the 1986 Mint 400 and this and all that, And so, but we never had race cars as kids. We rode dirt bikes and did all that. And, like you'd go to the desert and you'd see the guys in the pre-runners, the Baja Bugs, and it was always like, oh, that's such a cool thing. And then like as we got older and older, you'd go to like Desert Rangers and Race Desert and all these websites, and you're like, oh, like you can actually build these trucks. And like we had talked earlier, like all you need is some hand tools and a garage and you could build that thing.
Yeah.
And then, my dad was building hot rods and stuff in the garage when we were kids, and we had a lot of tooling, obviously, which was very nice and great kickstart.
Yeah.
And, started this whole obsession of building off-road trucks.
I was going to ask how you learned the fab. So it's from your dad. He was already doing hot rod stuff.
Yeah. So our dad helped us out a bunch of it, and then we all kind of learned together because I think the cage in the original F100 was the first
Like roll cage.
roll cage any of us ever built. and it was like the first tubes any of us ever notched or anything like that. Like, we learned on that truck, and then we raced it for 3 or 4 years without any real issues.
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember we made like a shock change.
Yeah.
Like, we put a bunch of compression into the truck, tried to make it fast.
It was before we really knew anything about like spring setup and valving and all that stuff, and we made a change and it cracked almost every single joint in the truck. We're like, oh, well, that didn't really work. The truck was fast, like as fast as it's ever been, but like the chassis was destroyed.
Yeah, it didn't hold it. I remember,
No.
like, we bought
Did you guys do DOM, or if you're true
No,
1450, because you
it
do
was
mild
mild steel.
Okay.
It was
whole
mild
truck was
steel.
mild steel.
Yeah, yeah, and everything was 1 3/4, 120 wall, mild steel. Everything.
Yeah, the
you know,
entire
like,
truck. Yeah, bumper to bumper. Like, my dad we didn't know that they made anything different. It was 1 3/4, 120. Seat mounts, 1 3/4. Everything was 1 3/4.
And dies are expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we were building that. We built that truck on like a borrowed Haasfield tube bender, like
Yeah.
back in the day, and like we still have the same ones, like Miller-Matic, like 185 or whatever it is, like the big machine.
Yeah.
It's a welder we still use today, but it's like we had talked. It's like we had a borrowed tubing bender, chop saw, angle grinder, and a welder. That's all we had, and a vise.
Did you guys buy the welder new, or your dad had that?
My dad bought it new. Yeah.
Dad bought it new.
Remember we bought it. We went to the Big 3 swap meet that they had down here, like at in the Qualcomm Stadium with Jack Murphy when we were kids. And I remember him talking to like the Miller rep and like getting the pamphlet. And I remember being a kid like, yeah, just buy it, just. Buy it. And I was like 7 or 8 when this happened, you know. And I remember we bought it like a couple weeks later, like San Diego Welding Supply. I remember we went down and picked it up or whatever. But
Probably
we've had
sell
that
it for the
all
same
the
amount that he bought it for now. Still.
Honestly,
right?
it's still a good machine.
I think the only thing we've ever done to that welder is like put a circuit board in it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it just keeps jamming.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did that even. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that was kind of the start of it, was just tinkering on stuff in the garage and just learning, you know.
For the love of the building of it, or you're all fueled by the dream of racing?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah. It kind of it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
There's certain times where all I want to do is drive the race cars, and all we want to do is race, and like that's why we work on the cars, is to go racing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then every now and then you'll get a certain project or there's something to fix, and you kind of like, oh, this is fun, like, and you get kind of dive into the craft of it, and like, I want to become a better fabricator because of this. And this truck, I think, really boosted all of our fab skills and builder skills.
Because the way, so Andy fabbed on it, everything was TIG welded. And like before this truck, we didn't really TIG weld very much.
Yeah.
And then we got this chassis and it was just like perfect. We're like, huh, well, we can't just MIG weld to this thing. Like,
We can't just go trigger welding all the tabs in place. We got to learn how to TIG weld now.
Do it justice.
Yeah, and like the chassis was perfect. Everything was perfect. We're like, all right, well, when we build the bumper, whatever we do next, it has to be to this level. So
and I mean, that was kind of the headache too. Like when we got the chassis in like 18 or 19 or whatever it was, and it was really intimidating to work on it. It's like I was like trying to find like, oh, okay, can I take it to your shop and can you help me do this? Like, I'll fit everything. Can you just weld it for me? And that was my big
first thing that we did was like the seat mounts, because you can't see them. So like, you know what? We're gonna do the seat mounts because you can't really see them once it's all together. So.
I still get held up by the fear of perfection sometimes. Of like, man, I don't want to screw this up, and like, but you gotta have something to.
I'll spend so much time like looking through Instagram on like other people, like, how'd you mount this power steering reservoir or whatever it may be, you know, and like how to form a tab, or just get ideas from other people, because you're like, go back to the same thing of being perfectionist, you know, like.
And like, we're not having someone else to bounce. Like, you can use social media, like you said, you can scroll through for ideas, or like if you're used to working with someone else, like me and Kevin work together so much, I've kind of gotten so used to it. It's hard for me to work alone. And like, I don't have someone to bounce ideas off of to feel confident about doing this.
Absolutely.
So I imagine you guys have always worked together.
Yeah, especially so like the three of us, like my dad will come up with an idea, or I'll come up with an idea, and Nick will be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You know, like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a really good checks and balances system in here. We all keep each other in check, not just like when it comes to fab ideas, but like in egos and everything in life. It's like, hey man, kind of being a jerk, you should probably not do that. Like, hey, that's gonna look terrible, don't build that, please. Like, that can't leave the shop like that. So yeah, having the three of us, it's a very good little ecosystem of checks and balances to make sure not just fab work, but like I said, everything else in life.
Heck yeah.
I like Michael Cox told me, I was procrastinating on my Bronco forever because I wanted to do it nice. And Michael Cox told me, he's like, perfection is the killer of progress.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna finish this thing.
Yeah, it's like everybody says, you know, progress over perfection. Like, that's a thing. It's like, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
As long as it's safe and it's not gonna hurt somebody else, just get the thing in the dirt. Like I'm an advocate of that for sure. Like do whatever it takes just to get it in the dirt and have fun and enjoy life. Like don't skip desert trips.
And the next one will be better too. The next time you do it. Like,
Yeah, you learn so much when you build these things. Like the next one always is better than the first one. And
It's like even this truck, like there's a couple, like we don't really have any chassis changes. Like Andy and John build such a quality chassis, but there's so many little like ergonomic things that we want to change for the next one we build that like it's cool. We learned so much on this thing. All right, on to the next one. And it's like same thing like with your Bronco or with anything. It's like you're gonna do it. You're like, oh cool, that's how I'm gonna do it. And like none of us keep anything forever. Like on to the next one and make it better. And so.
And you were saying too, that's what like is a huge bummer. Like Desert Rangers and
Race Desert.
What was the other one? Like there's like pre-runners,
Desert Rides.
Yeah, prerunners.net.
Prerunners.net.
Yeah.
Those are like forums are the absolute. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're freaking dead.
Oh, yeah.
Which
They're
is so annoying. Like Instagram, no social media company replaced forums. Like I want to start a social media company that mimics what forums were because that's how you go through. Like
you go to the show and tell or whatever it may be, and
go to the
you post
shop section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or even you just see like dudes would do forums of how I built this. Like you don't get that through social media now, and that's how you built. That's how I built
you get the
life and
highlight
stuff.
reels on Instagram, and that's it. You know, you're like, oh, look at this shock mount that I built, but you don't get the whole like, hey, look at this entire truck that we built. You know.
Yeah, I learned, honest to God, like, so that's where we learned about 1450 was through Desert Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, my buddies talking about it at school because we all rode dirt bikes and that's all we did. And then some buddies of mine were talking about off-road trucks. I was like, oh, off-road trucks are cool. And like, hey, you should check out this website. So I went on Desert Rangers and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys just race trucks? Like, just pickup trucks? Like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, it was the best thing. Yeah, and it's like, we had this truck and I'd bought this truck when I was 14 and we were just gonna like lift it and drive it to high school type deal.
Yeah.
I was like, Dad, we can build a truck and race it. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And like, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, look, and like showed my dad, like we read through everything and like, oh, these are all the rules. Like, that's it. The doors and cab, that's the only thing.
The doors have to open.
Yeah, the doors just gotta open.
That's
Steel cab and working doors.
You need maybe a motorcycle helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, back then, that's all it was. You could go racing with the dirt bike helmet.
No,
like,
honestly.
cared.
Yeah.
The tubes have to be like 50% welded.
Yeah, right.
No,
And you couldn't have like jump started a better trend than like, who's good for this? Like 16-year-old kids that don't know better. What are they driving?
Yeah.
Rangers and
Ford
Toyotas.
Rangers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make a class for that.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, we owe literally all of this to that website and to the forums and all those guys that were just building trucks in their garages, and we just took that, got addicted to it, and we haven't stopped. So.
Yeah, it's funny how many people start in the desert on two wheels. It's the most accessible way to get out there. I grew up on two wheels. I didn't get into like building stuff kind of till college. I didn't know what I was going to do, and then went for engineering and started building stuff. Did the Baja team there, and it was like finally broke out of the two-wheel world, and like it's like because you have an appreciation, I think, for me, a little more the mechanical side of it. The dirt bike's just a tool there to like ride, whereas like this, you can appreciate so much more of what goes into it.
And there's absolutely, like, you'll see that, like, even today, like, you see guys that are like dudes that are super into the trucks, like the actual truck, like this, the fab and the this. And there's guys that are into just being in the desert and like their trucks aren't quite as quality.
Yeah.
Then there's the guys that are into like racing and they don't care about anything. It just needs to be it's a tool to go racing. Then there's guys that actually care about the race cars, and like there's so many different levels of how this all breaks down. And that's something like you don't get with two-wheel stuff. You get dirt bike guys and that's it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to trucks and stuff like that, you get fabricators and designers and photographers and drivers and explorers and camping people, and it's just that's cool stuff ever.
You could go down whatever niche you want.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
I think the thing I liked about trucks that got me into was like motorcycles. Anyone has a motorcycle, and I can get on one, and I wasn't as good as anyone else.
Sure.
But I was delusional enough to think like I could probably build a better Ford Ranger.
Yeah, right.
Any of these other jackasses.
I bet you this Ranger is going to be faster than
Yeah.
that.
Oh
Ford
gosh,
Ranger.
it's pretty much a trophy truck.
We still didn't get over that delusion when we tried racing. We're like, we're gonna go out there, race the Moore Series, clean up, and walk away with some prize money. I think we finished one race.
Yeah, we finished one race. Can you enter a 1-2-1600 unlimited class?
Yeah.
Might as well.
In the 1600 buggy run class 1 paces? I think so. Yeah, sign me up for that one.
I know it can, but will they let us run the class? Like, it hurt their reputation when we win.
Yeah.
But no, racing's tough, man. You dream about it and like fantasize, but
Yeah, it
the reality of it
takes
is
a lot to go racing.
The hard part is when the reality sets in that you spend probably 5 times the amount of time prepping the car that you do driving it.
Well, that's what we did wrong.
It drives people.
Yeah.
We didn't do that ratio.
Well, that's the thing, you know. It's like I remember Heatwave Justin broke it down one time. It's like if for like a military jet, the like fly hours versus mechanic hours like balance, or like the amount of time you spend working on the jet to flying the jet is just ridiculous. Well, we probably spend what 200 or 300 hours or whatever it is on these trucks to drive them for 5 hours. Like it's just dumb. Like it makes absolutely no sense.
But
But
you kind of have to enjoy the building.
you got to enjoy all of it,
Yeah.
or you got to really like racing.
That's the thing. These things legitimately probably touch the dirt 6 times out of the year.
Yeah.
6, maybe 8 times out of the year, testing and racing and all that stuff, right? The rest of the time, it's sitting on jack stands just like this.
Yeah.
You know, you're just working on it.
Yep. You just hang out.
And if you don't, then you just waste your money. You can show up
Yeah.
and something breaks. And
Yeah, and it's like there's those lucky guys that can get away with the like show up and race and that's it. But like that would last so long. Like it doesn't. You know, you can't get away with that forever. At some point, you gotta prep your car. So we race a race that we've raced. We're racing Laughlin, which is at the end of the year, and it's a race that we've done for 11 years now.
11 or 12 years.
11 or 12 years consistently. Every year we've raced this race. Well, no, because we raced it 2010 was the first year, so it's 13 years.
13 years, yeah.
Is that right?
Math. Is the math in there? I think
Yeah.
so.
I think we skipped it one year. We raced Laughlin, but it wasn't a snow race.
It was an HDRA, but we're still in Laughlin.
Yeah. Either way, we've raced Laughlin in December every year since 2010. Last year we got our butts kicked. We crashed his truck real bad, and then we blew the engine up in this one. And it's always like our end of the year. This is for fun. We bring the families all come out. We camp out. We cook for everybody. Last year was a total headache and wasn't fun at all.
We didn't even end up racing day 2.
Yeah, we didn't race day 2. We just
like,
went
we
home.
could have, but we're like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
Put everything on the trailer. We're going home.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're getting ready for that. This thing's been sitting ready to go for quite some time. We went testing and screwed some parts up, but fixed all that, and it's going to go back together. So we'll go race Laughlin, and it's kind of our end of the year cap, and then we get ready for 24 for next year. So yeah, get ready for that.
oh yeah, this isn't your guys' drift car.
No.
Got the other,
Yeah. So this belongs to an old coworker of mine. He had this car since high school. He did a 5-speed swap in it. It's a single cam, so it's not the most desirable 240, but still a 240 SX. Did a 5-speed swap, and then it didn't start after he did that like 8 years ago, and it's been sitting in his garage and in storage. So he just came into a little bit of money, and he hit me up because I have a drift car that I have at home that's been old, reliable. It's a good car. He's like, hey Nick, I want you to make my car like your car. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So it's getting the full Part Shop Max suspension catalog on it. It's got a cage put in it. I just tacked it all together last night actually.
Oh, yeah, so you're just posting about that.
It's gonna stay stock body, so it's not gonna be super wide. It's gonna get like rolled fenders and like 17s and kind of be a nice low stockish bodied street car that he can go drive. He just moved to Oklahoma, and I guess there's a couple kart tracks out that way. So his plan is just to go weekend drive this thing and have some fun with it. So we're just trying to build him a nice, reliable car. So when it leaves our shop, he can just turnkey go drive it.
Go drive it.
So,
Not to be rude to anyone that lives in any other state, but like I never fully understood like dirt tracks are just roundy around. I was like, that's boring as until we drove. Like I've never traveled the country.
Oh yeah.
We started doing trade shows and we were driving through like Oklahoma or Kansas or something, and we were just like, this is boring. I would do anything.
Yeah.
Like I would do anything other than look at this terrain.
Yeah.
So like give me the dirt track, give me anything.
Yeah. So
Explains why there's so many circle tracks out that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's such a big thing.
You guys have been drifting out by us at the Apple
Yep.
Valley, huh?
Yeah, so that's the last place I drove my car was at ABS. I jinxed myself, said it was reliable. I broke the transmission out of the car. I bent a bunch of components. It's sitting at my garage at home. I don't want to touch it. It's literally just like, I lost second gear. So I had enough gears just to get it off the trailer and park it in my garage at home. Still covered in dirt, still got bald tires. It's just going to sit there until I find some more motivation.
Do you drift, Chris?
I have a drift car, but I have yet to drift it. Yeah, I built an E36 probably 2 years ago now. and it's got all part shop, everything in it, cage, seats, fender, everything all ready to go. I just have yet to take it on a track.
Just
That's weird, because usually I like starting a project, but I lose the motivation.
yeah. No,
finish it,
mine's done for the most part. It just needs like a wrap or paint or whatever. But yeah, it sits in my garage. I pull it out probably once every month and drive it around the block and put it back in the garage.
Which I guarantee you guys are probably the same way. When I was growing up, like, my cousin is awesome. All of his stuff's super clean, but I remember when we would build Legos, he would finish something and then like put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And like when I would finish something, I'd just smash it and then just like start building something else.
Yeah.
Like that's 90% of the fun is
exactly.
the building it.
So, but yeah, this is a fun project. This summer tinkering. My brother-in-law is helping me out with this one after hours. We're trying to shift gears a little bit in the shop. So we've got this project, and then we've got these 2 trucks, and we're trying to get them out in the next couple months. So next year we can kind of focus on just race car stuff.
Race car, yeah.
Prepping race cars.
Do more race prep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like building cars is fun and all. I'm sure it's going to change. But we're just kind of burned out on building stuff, and we kind of want to just turn
race
wrenches
cars
and prep cars. But I guarantee we'll probably get 6 months into that. But I kind of want to build something.
We'll always be building something. Like this frame rail here, like this is going to be an F100 4-wheel drive truck, mimicked off of the Ford Lightning that we built a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. So it'll get Super Duty axles under it. It'll get the Desolate Motorsports front kit on it. It'll have LS 480, MP205, 40s, Foxes, all that.
All right.
So
It's just F100 style though?
Yeah, so it'll actually get that cab and front clip and bed sides
All right.
made it onto this chassis, because this is a 90s like F350 chassis.
Okay.
So all the running gear and everything will be the same as the Lightning.
Yeah.
All right. This was a F350 chip?
Yeah.
All right. 2-wheel drive though.
Yeah, two-wheel drive. Yeah, so it's a 2-wheel drive F350, and the reason we use the F350 is because the frames are way thicker than the F150s.
Oh, all right.
So like my F150 frame is like 8 inches thick. It's all like, you see the bed flex in that thing. It's so bad.
Yeah.
And so these are much thicker frame rails.
Oh, cool.
So this was actually a diesel. It was like a 1990 single cab dually
diesel.
It was a really cool truck.
Short bed?
No,
No,
it was
long bed.
bed.
Oh, the
Long
short.
Yeah, if it was a short bed, we wouldn't have touched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the flat nose too, so it wasn't like the 95, like the brick nose. It was actually the flat nose one.
Yeah. I like the flat nose. I like the 88 body.
I'm starting to, I think, because I stare at this thing all day long, so now I'm starting to like the other one.
You can't do the drop center hoods as well on the 90s ones.
That's
You
true.
need the
So, but yeah, so this chassis, and the whole reason we're using this was just to utilize the Desolate front suspension. Because like Greg and those guys have it so figured out for those, like the Dana 60 swap.
All right.
It's literally like a bolt-on shock hoop, a bolt-on steering box mount, a bolt-on track bar mount, and it all just clicks together. So
Once those get the shock tuning pretty good right out of the box.
Exactly. Well, yeah, shock stuff on those things. We set them up as low as we can. Like my Lightning sits on the bump stops, and you just make sure you have enough spring in it to let it droop out.
Yeah.
So, as much as you want these things to go fast, they don't go fast.
Yeah, like we took it to Johnson Valley a couple weeks ago, and like we were going all right, but we weren't going 60 or 80 miles through the.
Danny was beating us in his stock Explorer.
Yeah, exactly.
We were like, oh, we're gonna go on a trail ride. We'll follow Danny. He has like him and his wife and his 2 kids and like a stock like 98 Explorer. It's I think it's an A-arm Explorer.
Oh, it's an A-arm.
Yeah, it's an A-arm Explorer. Right?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I can keep up with Danny. And Danny was smoking me. And I'm like, oh, I'm in this. It's got 40s and it's got a lightning motor. And, all this and we're just like, clack, 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 clack. Like, oh, this thing's miserable out here.
Yeah.
So it does great in the rocks, but don't expect to go fast in those things.
No.
I don't know how like the KOH guys that are competitive with the straight axle. I don't know how those feel. I did a little bit of the KOH carbon, which I always thought like KOH, like A-arms, got to be the future of this. But you know, which is cool. That whole industry and that side of it is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So another niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Just driving cars in the dirt. That's what we all do.
Slightly different dirt. A little more rocks in that dirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, and these are just some customer projects. This is a diesel truck that we took over to finish. It's actually like a 2018 Chevy Duramax. It's got all the Kivitech parts catalog on it.
Yeah.
A gentleman in Texas put the whole chassis together, and then it came to us to finish up.
Okay.
And so we've just been tinkering on this. It's getting pretty close to going back on the ground and getting out of here.
All right.
And then this is a brand new Jeep Gladiator. It's got 900 miles on it. Customer ordered the whole catalog, so it's got getting like an Evo coilover bypass kit in the front, a 4-link kit in the rear. It's got Casey Curry's giant axles, and It's just going to be
Rough Truck 60s.
yeah.
We don't call them rough trucks anymore.
It's 70s or I don't know.
Extreme 70s and
Extreme 60s. Or, I don't know. Yeah. This 4x4 stuff's new to us, so please forgive us if we get the terminology wrong.
All right.
But yeah, it's the best axles you can get from Casey because we needed them a custom width.
Yeah.
And this was the only way to do it.
We should have brought you guys a KOH shirt that we made.
Oh.
We
Nobody thought it
offended.
as funny as we did, but
Yeah, you guys would get it. We offended everyone at King of the Hammers with it.
So I've got. We'll start here. My 2 favorite tools we have in the shop was the do-all bandsaw. This is just something I've always wanted, like growing up, like watching people make cool parts, and you can build a whole trophy truck with one of these things. Like every control arm, every piece of plate. Like we've got buddies that don't even laser cut stuff; they just make complete control arms with the bandsaw. So when I finally found a nice deep-throated old machine, I was super excited to buy that. So this is probably one of my favorite. My second favorite is our lathe. And these are just 2 big machines that you don't get to have unless you have some space. And so with us forever working in a small garage and doing all that,
Yeah,
we
those are
finally had some
seriously
space. I was like, oh, I can buy cool tools now.
he's all running on single phase.
Yeah, we converted the motor. So
Oh,
yeah, when we bought it, the motor was kind of goofed up. So instead of trying to convert it over and make it all work, we just went online and just bought a single phase motor.
heck yeah.
Yeah, it's probably smarter than everybody trying to figure out rigged up phase converters.
So that's what this is. So this has some goofy like static phase converter deal where you gotta press and hold the button for a couple minutes, like then like let it warm up and then we're up to pace. So that one we goofed with the wiring to make it work. Or my buddy Austin did. I'm not good with that stuff. This one we just replaced the motor.
If you want to get real goofy, like once you start that 3-phase motor with that capacitor, now you have a phase converter in that motor. You can like run the rest of the shop.
Yes.
Like, you turn the bandsaw.
Yeah, the bandsaw's just running all the time.
And to like super old school, like Class 8 and like early trophy truck guys would break their blades, drill a hole in the middle of their plate work, re-weld it in
Yes,
the middle,
yeah.
and fucking cut out all their internal shit.
Yep.
Like that's some crazy dedication.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah. So those are my 2 big favorite machines. Like we were talking earlier, the old Miller-Matic 185. My dad bought this when we were little kids, and it just keeps running. I think we've definitely gone through our 3-year warranty. But luckily enough, this thing just keeps jamming. Does the job.
And that's the best one ever, but I have a Miller-Matic 210. Same vintage, it's like 2001 or 2002.
Yeah. Probably the same issue.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. And then we run a Synchrowave 250. Just because we can't really afford any of those big fancy Dynasties. And this thing works great too. Like I've welded on Dynasties, I've welded on electronic machines.
Oh, these things, yeah,
Gotta
work
keep
awesome.
an eye on the auctions like we've been.
Yeah. The only issue with this is when we go to weld like thick aluminum, it just starts popping the breakers everywhere. So
It pulls it, yeah. It
the
pulls
duty
a lot of
cycle is
freaking
not
juice.
there. Yeah. Oh yeah. So we definitely need to buy what do they like an inverter machine? Is that what they call them? Like,
Yeah.
Electronic machines just for doing aluminum stuff.
Yeah.
So
That's nice, and the pulse helps a lot with aluminum too.
yeah.
Just you do that high frequency pulse. I've heard. I haven't done a whole bunch.
Maybe,
Right,
yeah.
right.
It's supposed to help like heat it more locally and
Mhm.
not use much power.
So, but yeah, so those are kind of our collection of older tools. Got a nice like arbor press my buddy Frankie gave us. Obviously, we talked about our favorite belt sander in the world and the versatility of it. And like we talked earlier, like in a single car garage or 2-car garage, that's the best machine you could get because you have 2 or 3 sanders in one sander.
Yeah.
But then when you get 2 or 3 guys in one shop trying to use one sander, you need 2 of them.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
one thing we've kind of like talked about is when you get to the point where you guys are like, you're not one guy in one garage or something.
Yeah.
Now you get here, like, do you just buy 2 or 3 of those, or would it be better if we like made specialty machines? You know?
I think it makes sense to buy 2 or 3 of these because, like, if say he's working on a tube project and I'm working on a tube project, but he's fitting inch tubing and I'm fitting 1 3/4 tubing,
Yeah.
being able to swap just the rollers out and then he has his machine set up and I have my machine set up.
So then, yeah, rather than like specialty machines, you can still have 2 guys who need them.
Yep.
A belt grinder if you had a specialty machine, which I hadn't thought of. I'm not trying to lead you guys anything. Like,
No, for us, like, even if
each guy gets their own machine, kind of is the
we had no
mentality.
budget, we had no nothing, we could fill the shop with everything we wanted, I think we'd still probably buy 2 or 3 of these just because you can tweak them and, you know, the versatility of the machine. So, but
We,
yeah, that.
we get a lot of people asking about wider belts, and we have a hard time kind of because the 2-inch belt, we were talking about it on the way down here, still feels like the most universal. Like
Yeah.
everybody's used to like the old Birkings and stuff too, and it's like the wide belt is nice sometimes when you need it, but when you don't need it, I feel like you're just wasting.
Yeah, you burn in the center no matter what.
Yeah.
Burn out the center
Then you're
of the
trying
belt.
to.
Yeah, and you're walking it around, and then
Or it gets in the way if you're trying to get, I don't know, just like.
and then you get like the inconsistency of the belt if you burn the center of it up and you try and like put like a flat surface on something, and then you just have like these weird little notches out of it.
And then you're trying to go sideways to like clean it up, but it's digging in.
There's definitely room for a wide machine too, but I don't think it replaces.
No,
Yeah.
you need all of them. So
Is there anything in the pipeline to make a wider like a taller version of the flat surface for like longer plate work or anything like that?
It's an easy thing to do. We always wait till we hear enough requests from enough people. I've heard that like once or twice before.
Okay.
But yeah, if you need it.
like a call it like a 2-foot piece of plate, whatever it may be. You know what I mean, for facing it off. Or
Yeah.
Yeah. But something like that would help. Like usually, if I like plasmid something, I'm like Michael J. Fox on the plasma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then I do it on the 6-inch wheel, which is kind of way I add those.
Close.
But then you still have to like watch that line and like kind of sculpt it. But yeah, something that you could like true up and make sure it's all flat would be nice.
I usually find myself, for long edges, focusing on the bottom wheel. So I've like concentrated pressure to knock down all the high spots, and then hit the flat at the end. Make sure you get.
I always flip it sideways and run it that way so I can sit in and watch it as I go.
Yeah. Like a nice big, maybe like big horizontal.
Yeah.
That is the nice part about this, is that it does just go sideways.
We need to get you guys too. I didn't realize you have the small work rest. You guys have some.
Oh, there's a big one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we are. We're working the Stone Age. What the heck?
The new one you guys got has got the big one.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Which is freaking way better, especially when you go horizontal.
Yeah.
You got a few old things on this. You got the old handle on the work rest. We don't do it that way anymore.
So a little improvement there.
Yeah, way improvement. Like flipping it over to use on the horizontal and getting your height is going to be 10 times
Oh,
easier.
cool. Pitching.
And
And
then
we must have been feeling broke when we got you this one. I see your contact wheel says bad side on.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing, is it works great. Like, we got no complaints.
Yeah, no,
It's like, like I said, in the 2 years, like, honest to God, this thing probably runs every single day. Yeah.
this thing's trash too. You can
Yeah, it is.
you can just throw it away.
Yeah. We just let it sit there. We don't throw anything away.
You can throw it
The
away.
one will be better.
The new one is 100 times better. Yeah, it's funny
Perfect.
we made these. We made it for a little bit and like, those don't really work.
I mean, they hold them.
Yeah.
So.
So the new one's just this style, but for the big wheels.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like I said, in the 2 years we've had it, we haven't had any issues. It just runs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But,
Now, is it best? So, like, if you're doing multiple grinds or whatever, is it best to just leave the thing running, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on? Like,
depends on what you want to listen to.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, if you don't mind the noise, I'm a fan of leaving it on just because the most likely thing to fail is probably the switch.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think it's not a big difference
Yeah, I don't
either
think
way.
it mattered at all.
But yeah.
If any future jury's watching this or any legal department, I don't know if we can suggest it or not.
Oh, for safety, yeah. What does OSHA have to say about this? So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so we got that, and then I guess other tools, just some sheet metal stuff. These are actually on loan from John Evans. Hopefully John's not watching, because I hope he forgot that we have these. Because I probably want them back at some point. But yeah, stomp shear and a finger brake. Like those those are just things that when you're in a 2-car garage, that's just not an option. And so when we moved here, it's like, oh my gosh, we can actually cut a 4-foot sheet of aluminum. This is amazing. We can buy 4x8 sheets of steel. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So you still get it done like in the 2-car garage with less tools. But
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you can.
Yeah, we did.
that's
it
we
for
talk
years
about a
and
lot
years.
with guys. Is like you gotta stick within your budget, but at the same time, what role do good tools play? Like obviously, buying tools doesn't make good quality alone. Like you can buy all I'm gonna build a truck, and you buy all the best tools and
Yeah, you
build junk, or you can be super skilled with just an angle grinder.
I think it's
So
a
it's like-
balance of it too. It's like you're not going to gain those skills and learn the attention to detail unless you start in that 2-car garage.
Yeah, you need that.
Or I mean, unless if you like get a job in a trophy truck shop or an apprentice or something like that, and you're working for some guy that teaches you how to do it perfectly. But if you're like, hey, I have all the means to do this, I'm going to buy this steel building and I'm going to buy all the best tools, like, you're not going to know how to make anything cool. Like, you got to learn, you got to make a sheet metal brake on your workbench with some angle iron and a homemade hinge to like bend your own steel. Like, you got to go through those trials and tribulations, and then it really makes you respect what you got now.
Respect and appreciate
So.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember one of the first things I like semi-fabbed up, maybe even before I had a welder, Motorcycle Mania 1 had just came out, and I saw it and I was like, this shit's cool. And then my dad bought like containers that fell off ships or shit of Chinese tools or something. So he had like one of the Harbor Freight pipe benders.
Oh yeah.
And my dad bought it off.
Hinker, Harbor Freight Hinker.
Yeah.
Hinker, that's it, dude.
So dude, we had like this old beach cruiser in the backyard, and I pulled it out and I made like these ape hanger bars.
I remember that face.
But dude, they were just like kinked in the corners because I'm like trying to bend like 1-inch 60 wall.
Yeah, and it's just crinkling on you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was so fucking proud. I rode it to my neighbor's house who was like building a sandcar in his garage, and he was like,
What'd you do?
You're a liability, buddy. I remember that was such a crazy, like all the Krusty Demons videos, everything they owned had ape hangers on it.
Yeah.
Their go-karts, remember like the shifter carts, they put ape hangers on them and everything?
Reflective Saba?
Yeah. What
I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies, but for some reason I was allowed to watch like the VHS copy my uncle made me of Krusty Demons like, on repeat all summer.
Yeah. Oh, dude, just full repeat.
Oh yeah.
I think it was like Krusty Demons 2, where he starts out with Metallica, Give Me Fire, with the kid on his like 80 Kawasaki 80 or some shit, like delivering papers.
Yep. Those are good times.
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Simpler times.
Simpler
I
times.
have to rewatch those when I get home. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist of our...
I prefer my motocross. Very nifty. Very nifty.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of the basic shop tool stuff we got. We got a bunch of miscellaneous hand tools and junk, but...
Yeah, plasma cutter, chop saw, grinder, stuff like that.
But that's all the cool stuff we're talking about.
You were talking to, like, me and Eric came up with a phrase the other day that I think we liked. Because we're trying to, like, how could this help you? Like, if you're someone who's really known for fabrication, I'll pull like an old school desert. If you're Matt Walrath,
Sure.
you don't need this. You're already building great shit.
Yeah.
Do you need this? And I think you do. And the thing we came down to is if you're working, you're either, with our current theory, you're either time like oriented, you're time minded, or you're quality restrained. So me, when I started,
spectrum, you can be
somewhere in between there. But I'm time oriented. Like, this is going to take me 30 minutes, and when in 30 minutes is done, whatever quality I have
is what you got.
Is what you're getting.
Yeah.
Because that's how much time I have. Like, I have someone time anyways. Right.
Yeah, like RJ or Matt Walrath or something like that. Like, if you gave those guys a file, they would still give you the same result. It would just take longer.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think this definitely helps both spectrums of that, both sides of that whole deal. Is like, it definitely helps you save time. Which, when this becomes a business and becomes something where it's like you're making your livelihood out of it, you want to get that part made as fast as possible. But you also need to hold your quality. And so, if you are equivalent on the opposite end of that, if you're a quality-driven guy, this helps you build a quality part, which then in the end also helps you on the time. So it's quicker. You're still making a nice part.
If you're a quality guy, it's saving you time.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're a time guy, it's adding quality.
It's honestly just like a good, positive thing for both sides of this whole program, in my opinion. Like, if I was in my garage and I had 10 years to build one thing, I would use this to make that one thing. If I had 10 days to build an entire car, I would use this because I can get it done real quick.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a versatile tool for both sides of that argument, in my opinion. So, and space is always a thing, because the footprint of this machine, and like I'll drive this in forever, the footprint of this machine is so small, and it's such a versatile machine that it is 2 or 3 different sanders in one, that anybody, I don't care how much space you have, you fill it up. And so the fact that this takes the space of potentially 3 different sanders is a great thing.
Even if you're the HVAC guy, you got to park your rig inside.
Yeah, your stacker trailer and your diesel pusher. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't have room for 12 machines. I'm
Right. Exactly. Anything new? No, just the 4x4 truck.
Okay.
I think that's kind of the only thing. Just we're building that new 4x4 truck, and 24 is coming up, so that's fun.
When you guys build a truck like that, are you just doing it for you for fun, or are you doing it for...
Yeah, so that's an after hours build.
Right.
But then, like in the situation that we're in these days, like that is part of our job, is to build things like that too. So we try, like on Fridays, for a while there on Fridays we work on personal projects all day, so you get a full day of personal stuff. And then the weekends obviously. But we've just been so slammed with customer projects that it's hard to, you feel guilty working on your own stuff when you got a customer deadline creeping up. So thank you for coming to our shop. We appreciate AmeriBrade for everything they've done for us. We're very excited to see and use the updated 2x72. See if these improvements are really that much better than a machine that we're super stoked on as it is. Like you've asked, like I don't see any means to change the machine we have, but apparently it's better. So we're super stoked. Stay you know, up to date on everything we do, check out our socials, check out their socials. That's where you get like the most up to date information on everything we're doing, whether it's race cars or it's them building more quality tools to help you build better cars. But all in all, thanks for stopping by and thanks for a great product.